Hello, everyone. My name is Manon. I'm the Blockchain Game Alliance president. And today I'll talk about, if I understand how I can change slides.
The big green button. The big one above. Looks like a play symbol.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there. Sorry. Yeah, so a few words about the Blockchain Game Alliance. It's pretty new, actually. I've been working on this project for a year, but we only opened membership in March 2019 during the GDC, actually. So we officially launched the Blockchain Game Summit in Lyon, France in September, and then we opened the membership in March, and I think so far we have like 72 companies that joined, and over 30 individuals as well. Those are a few of the companies that joined. I'm sorry, I know that some of you are members actually in the audience. Maybe your logo is not there. I didn't have time to add them all, but yeah, that's a few of them. In the founding members, we have companies such as Consensus and Ubisoft and Ultra Gimbal, Everdreamsoft. We are 9 in total, B2Expand, Engine. So, right, so blockchain gaming. I'll go quickly because that's something that we already heard this morning. So blockchain gaming started really to take off with NFTs, so CryptoKitties and so on, at the end of 2017. And more recently, we also see happening all the things about user-generated content, so the sandbox and all the other projects, CryptoSpace Commander, for example, that actually use the blockchain for user-generated content. And something else that I wanted to talk about is that lots of big games are using NFTs. That's the primary area that is being explored with blockchain, but also other games are actually moving part of their gameplay onto blockchain. Because NFT is very good. You can have your assets in your wallet and it's decentralized, but what happens to the asset metadata? Because when the game you play and that actually uses your NFTs closes or is disrupted, then you still keep your assets, right? But what happened to the asset metadata that are tied to your asset, like the picture, the description, the name, all of this? And do you not think that maybe your assets won't have as much value is the games or the games that you use it in is actually discontinued? So lots of projects are actually moving all of their gameplay or part of the gameplay onto the chain. And so what happens when the NFTs are actually used in different games? So, well, some studios, like 2 years ago, when I was in the beginning in the industry, I heard a lot about cross-gaming items, right? And the network effect, meaning that there could be overlap between communities and that communities would be stronger if we could use the same NFTs, the same assets in different games. So I heard that actually 3 years ago, and it was a big, big promise. But what happened in the 3 years that have passed? Because we don't see now that cross-gaming items actually took off. We see a lot of projects that are working on it, but we didn't see that much actually overlap between communities yet. And so I asked myself, why is that? Why don't we see that much overlap between NFTs and games? Although it exists, it's not really used now. So the blockchain game industry is like so new still, 3 years after. So there is a lack of standards, of course. There is a lack of maybe interoperability between blockchains. More time might be needed because lots of blockchain games are still in development right now. But there is also a huge factor, and it's the fear of studios of losing their audience. Because when you do cross-promotion, like little studios, they think, great, I can promote that my NFTs are actually usable in other games. That's great for them. But what happens to big studios that don't want to lose their audience to another game? They won't promote things that can be actually, that take their user and actually put them into other games that they are not theirs. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is critical mass, because for cross-game items to really thrive, I don't think we reached yet the mass of user that is needed to create a positive feedback loop that we need for the network effect to actually work. Right, so right now we had some very successful games like CryptoKitties, but they are still very limited. The target is really limited because they only appeal to crypto gamers, right? And the UX is not really fit for casual gamers. And we don't have that many examples of blockchain games yet because most of them are still in development. But that's starting to change, so that's good news. And we see lots more projects this year in 2019 that actually target a mainstream audience. And this can be like games today. They have to find, for this to happen, they have to find new business models because So we talked earlier about Magic the Gathering and trading cards, and okay, that was physical items. But when the gaming industry actually moved to digital, second-hand markets actually disappeared. All right, so if we want to reinstore them, if we want them back, we need to find new business models that actually maximize the benefits of secondary trading. And that's only possible if the game designs, if the games are like designed from the beginning to include secondary markets and NFTs and blockchain features. And another thing is that it can be hard to actually implement blockchain because of the framework, regulatory framework that is not there yet into most countries. So when you deal with blockchain, you deal actually with a lot more issues than just integrating blockchain into your game. You deal with the management of NFTs, of cryptocurrency in your country, accountancy, taxes, and all that stuff, right? And of course, so I was talking earlier about metadata and what happens to the metadata if the game is disrupted or discontinued. But there is also a concern for most studios, and it's about intellectual property. Because while I don't need to ask another studio to actually integrate their assets, because they're on the blockchain, so I can integrate very easily NFTs from other projects, but what I can't do is actually use their pictures, their lore of their game or whatever metadata they're using, and that's still centralized, right? So we need actually new license and a new way to manage IP rights within the blockchain. So one of the two last things I will be talking about is the core differences between blockchains. Because we have, so before we only had Ethereum that was like largely used for games. But now we have EOS, we have Tron, we have other blockchains, and they are all starting to build tools and to attract developers. They all want developers, they all want dApps, and they all want games because lots of people think that games will be the dApp that will attract most users to the blockchain experience. But as a result, it's very hard to know where to start, because all these blockchains have separate ways of actually working: proof of stake, proof of work delegated, proof of stake, different program language. It's actually hard as a developer to know which blockchain is fit for your usage, which has the best tools, which is more largely used by a game audience. It's kind of hard to actually know where to start. And there is, of course, the scalability issues, but that's less and less an issue. And for this to be really an issue, you still have to have users, right? Otherwise, scalability doesn't even make sense. But, and I'm not very worried about scalability, because lots of great projects are actually working on it right now. But I'm a lot more worried about user experience. So what we need for blockchain games to actually thrive is an harmonized user experience for fluidity, for accessibility, and for transparency. And we need interoperability between blockchains, because when a casual gamer that doesn't know anything about blockchain comes into a game, he doesn't know if you're using Ethereum or Tron or EOS, and he doesn't care, and it should be that way. So we need to make them, we need to make that very easy for them, so they can actually have the same harmonized experience between games and between blockchains. And that's not the case yet, but we're working on it. So the industry is already moving forward to deal with these issues, but we still need improved tools for first layer apps like games, so Unity tools, Unreal, etc. And we also need tools to communicate between first layer apps like games, for example, and second layer apps like, for example, marketplaces. And how we manage the metadata between those two, and lots of other questions are still in the air. So what's Blockchain Alliance and how we can help? Well, it's very, very simple. We are a network, so we have a lot of companies and we provide a platform for them to talk, and that's just as easy as that, but that's very valuable, because people now, in the professionals in the video game industry and the blockchain industry, there's still a lot of space, and when the gaming industry, traditional gaming industry, is really competitive, there is still a lot of space for cooperation in the blockchain video game industry. So we need to define standards, right? So that's technical standards, but also business model, marketing, lots of things we still have to figure out, and I think that we can actually figure it out together. So we have working groups. The first working group is about blockchain asset metadata standardization. We've got contributors from lots of different projects, including Web3, Engine, lots of others. Actually, we have over 10 members from 10 different companies. We'll launch other working groups in the near future, so that's just the beginning. And also, what I wanted to tell you is that while standards are very important, I think that nothing is more important than networking, discuss with each other and share the same, share your issues with the community, and share maybe even your GitHub, or try to work on open source and to figure things out together. So I hope that the Blockchain Game Alliance can actually help the community of professionals from the video game and blockchain industry to do that. So we have a Discord, we have Google Groups, we have lots of stuff to actually put each other in contact. And so I'm here to discuss with lots of projects, I hope, and to find out what you need and how I can help, and how the Blockchain Game Alliance can help. So don't hesitate to come to me, and I would really like to hear about your project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great. I think that that message of kind of like how sharing is so important actually resonates with me because I kind of started out in the old days before there was an iPhone. The amazing guys who were making Java games back in the earliest days, you know, people like Ilkka Paananen and Christian Segeslari, you know, these kind of early adopters of mobile as a platform are the guys who are giants now in the mobile scene here. I mean, where would we be without Supercell? So, I mean, you know, if you think about companies like that, they all talk to each other. They all learn and spent time with each other right back in the earliest of days. So I think we need to learn from their example, and what you're doing is an amazing way to try and connect people.